Many people say that debt is the root of all evils. It's a warning to never get into debt, as being in debt can feel like slavery. Unfortunately, this saying holds true to some extent because when you're drowning in debt, your life can feel like it's over. As you try to pay off your debts, the interest keeps growing day by day since no one lends money for free. Despite all of this, the United States has accepted debt as a part of life. The total consumer debt in the U.S. is almost $17 trillion, which means the average household debt is over $165,000, according to a new study. The U.S. GDP is a little over $23 trillion, which means that the entire economy is composed of debt. I have some positive news for you: not all debt is necessarily bad. This may be an unpopular opinion since much of the debt people have is considered bad debt. You may currently have some credit card debt, a car loan, or even student debt, and the idea of paying them off over the course of several decades may seem overwhelming. It's understandable if you're thinking, how could this possibly be a good thing? To grasp the idea of how debt can actually be beneficial, let's examine how individuals with significant wealth leverage debt to generate even more income. It may seem paradoxical since why would someone with a lot of money even consider taking on debt? After all, debt is typically associated with those who lack financial resources. However, that's not how the workings of capitalism operate. Debt can be a powerful tool if utilized effectively. Welcome to Money Mindset, where we provide educational resources on money, personal finance, and investing. In this video, you will find out how rich people use debt to make even more money. If you're serious about enhancing your financial future, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video if it was helpful to you. The vast majority of trade relies on debt, and while it may seem controversial since borrowing money to launch a business is often viewed as a risky endeavor, there are instances where utilizing debt is actually the most advantageous option, particularly for traditional businesses. For example, consider a business that sells pens. Pens are a common product with consistent demand. Ideally, you would travel to China, locate a factory that produces high-quality pens at a reasonable price, purchase a container of pens, and then distribute them to your clients in the U.S. However, nowadays, this process is mostly conducted online via websites such as Alibaba, unless the product is complex enough to warrant an in-person factory visit. Here's the catch: you don't need to pay for the products up front to have them in hand. Let me show you how. Over the past 5 decades, China has become the world's manufacturing hub, producing a vast range of goods. Thousands of factories operate around the clock to manufacture everything that the global market demands. To facilitate sales, most of these factories are willing to loan their products to buyers who promise to pay in the future. However, they typically reserve this privilege for trusted partners, so you will need to establish a rapport with them first. This has been the way of doing business for the last half-century. Once a client sells the product in the US or anywhere else, they will pay the factory and request more products on loan. Essentially, you're telling the factory, you know how to produce it, so let me help you sell it. If I can sell it for more than its cost, I'll make a profit. The beauty of this approach is that you're not risking your own capital in this transaction. That's why developing sales skills is one of the most valuable abilities one can possess. Refinance. Real estate debt is often considered the most favorable kind of debt due to its numerous tax benefits. Without a mortgage, you may end up paying more in taxes. Wealthy individuals, on the other hand, often take out multiple mortgages to maximize their deductions. Remember, every dollar you save on taxes is an additional dollar earned. This is one of the many ways in which the rich get richer. But let me show you a more practical example of how the wealthy accumulate wealth through real estate. Suppose you've saved $150,000. While this is a considerable sum, it's still not enough to purchase a home outright. Additionally, you wouldn't qualify for a $900,000 mortgage since you'd need to make a 20% down payment. Now, here's a strategy that many real estate investors use to create wealth. Suppose you come across a property that costs $500,000, but it's in a poor condition and needs significant renovation. You secure a mortgage from a bank by making a 20% down payment. Let's say you allocate around 10% of the total cost of the property, or approximately $50,000, to renovate it. Once you have completed the renovations, the market value of the property rises, let's say to $800,000, because now people are willing to rent it out. When you first got the mortgage, the property was only worth $500,000 because of its condition, but the renovation work has increased its value. Let's assume that, as before, you secure an 80% mortgage on the property now valued at $800,000, which amounts to $640,000. From this amount, $400,000 will go towards paying off the initial mortgage, and $50,000 will go towards the renovation expenses. This leaves you with an extra profit of $190,000. In other words, you've made a $190,000 profit using debt, and you now own a property that you can rent out to generate passive income and build equity. Additionally, having a mortgage means you can avoid paying taxes. This strategy is a popular practice among real estate investors. Hedge funds. Hedge funds typically employ unpopular strategies to make the rich richer. Normal people, like you and me, try to predict which companies will grow and invest our hard-earned money, hoping these companies will appreciate in value. In contrast, hedge funds often use an opposing strategy by trying to profit when companies fall or go bankrupt, as was the case with GameStop. However, the internet challenged hedge funds in that instance and caused them to lose over $13 billion. But how do hedge funds use debt to make money? Suppose you anticipate a particular stock, such as Coca-Cola, to decrease because you know that Cristiano Ronaldo doesn't like it and he is going to told the world to drink water instead. This move will seriously harm Coca-Cola's reputation. So, you dial your broker's number and request to borrow one Coca-Cola stock from him, which costs around $100, and immediately sell it in the public market for $100. Now you have $100 in cash, but you still owe your broker one Coca-Cola stock. Suppose you are correct, and the stock price of Coca-Cola falls to $70 next week. You use the $100 to buy one Coca-Cola stock at $70 since the price has dropped, then return it to your broker and keep the profit of $30 from one stock. While this may sound straightforward, it is extremely challenging and hazardous in practice. What if you are mistaken? What if the price doubles overnight? You are still obligated to return the Coca-Cola stock to your broker and pay interest for borrowing it. Now, you must purchase the stock for $200 to return it to your broker. In contrast to buying a stock and attempting to sell it when it rises, the maximum amount you can lose is the amount you invested in. However, this is not the case when shorting a stock. If the price continues to rise, your losses will continue to increase. In theory, you can suffer infinite losses because, in theory, the stock price can rise endlessly. However, if you have 100 analysts working for you, you can earn a fortune using this strategy. Credit score. Debt is a powerful tool that is utilized by every successful business, company, or entrepreneur in different ways, especially if they have a proven business model. Nearly all businesses practice borrowing money to finance purchase orders. Therefore, it is essential to stop believing that all debt is bad. High-interest debts, like credit card debts, are terrible, but to obtain a lower interest rate, one must reduce the risks of borrowing money. The question is, how do you achieve that? By establishing a history of being a trustworthy borrower. There are vast amounts of money, potentially in the billions or trillions of dollars, sitting in banks waiting to be borrowed. If there will be no money left to borrow, banks have the ability to create money seemingly out of nothing. So let's use debt in our favor. Thank you for watching.